Hello, hello, and welcome to Fine, I'll Talk About It, the podcast where we say the quiet parts out loud. Real talk, straight to the point, no fake positivity. I'm your host, Danielle Young, and today I'm joined by Angie Mays. Angie is a You First expert and mindset coach who has recently become an author. On today's episode, we're talking about burnout and becoming exhausted to empowered. Angie, welcome to Fine, I'll Talk About It.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's nice to be here.
Thank you so much for coming on and talking about burnout. So, why don't you tell us a little bit about you and how you became exhausted to empowered?
Lovely. Thank you. Yes. So basically, when I was 13, I started working for a family that had a chain fish and chip shop. So I worked there for a little bit and it was a bit on and off. And then I literally spent 16 years of my life there. So it was from 13 to 29.
Wow.
And yeah, it's such a long time. So it was all of my teenage years, all of my, 20s. It's crazy, really, thinking about it. It was a large portion of my life. But they had the ethos that work was life. And I kind of grown up in that sort of ethos, really. My mum was a single mum. She brought us two girls up. And we went around all her jobs with her while she was cleaning and when she worked in a care home. So we have many lovely experiences, don't get me wrong. And I always saw that, hard work got you where you needed to be. So yeah, I kind of just, as we're all sponges when we're children and we get all these habits and it molds us, I kind of just went along with it, really. And then suddenly I was working 6 days a week, 10-hour shifts, 12-hour shifts, and I didn't really have much of a life as a teenager. And it was really odd, really, because I didn't actually question it. I just was told to go to work, went to work. I was poorly, I'd go to work, as you do. They're short staff, you can't have your day off this week. And yeah, it just became very draining and very exhausted. And as a teenager, getting out of work at 10 o'clock at night and not having that time with your friends, there was nothing to do apart from go to the pub. So, we'd be very young, wanting to go to the pub before 18 and, spending a lot of our 20s in the pub because there was no other time to do it. And then you're exhausting yourself by working double shifts, and then you're exhausting yourself by going to the pub and exhausting yourself by going to work with a hangover. So there was no win-win in this situation. But yeah, it carried on for a long time, really. Obviously, I worked there for 16 years, but I kind of changed my pattern towards the end. Well, I tried to. And yeah, I was just living really, rather than living, I was surviving, and I was becoming very depressed. But as a teenager, I didn't really understand what was happening or what I was doing to myself. And I was just people pleasing, I guess. I'd be asked to work. I would, I wouldn't really feel like I had an option in it. A lot of us women, even now, feel like we don't have a say in up to our employers. And being so young, I just did as I was told. So yeah, it was very, very hard on me emotionally, physically. Some days I would be so exhausted, he'd send, one of the other waitresses down the shop and buy £10 worth of chocolate. And back then you get loads of bars of chocolate for £10. And I'd just eat loads of chocolate and then I'd carry on working and I'd have a bit more energy. So it was really unhealthy looking back. And I had, I was suppressing all my feelings. I was just getting on with it and I was miserable. I was really miserable. And then you start to think it's you. You start to think, I'm not a happy person. I'm ungrateful, and you've got all this negative self-talk. And I tried to do a CBT course in my 20s because I was really depressed and anxious. And I didn't understand it, actually. I thought they were a bit crazy. I thought they're telling me to be positive and I've got really bad anxiety and it's not working and I can't sit in a car as a passenger. I'm crying and, I'm having this big frantic episode in the car with my partner. And by the time we get to his mum's house for a lovely Sunday dinner, I've lost my, you know, I've reacted so badly. I'm in tears. I'm red raw, and I'm like, I don't want to go down those country lanes again. And yeah, so I've got to calm myself down to sit there and have a family dinner. So my anxiety was really bad. And I didn't understand the fact that because I wasn't expressing myself and I was pushing it all down, that I was keeping that trauma cycle there and not finishing it and making myself even more depressed. So it was a vicious cycle, really. And it continued and continued until I just pushed myself too far. And it was like I wasn't even aware and I wasn't even awake. I was just plodding on, just doing as I was supposed to do. But there was one day that I fell down the stairs and I actually injured my coccyx and I was off work. And, you've got to sit on one of those polo cushions and you feel really stupid. And it's so painful. It really is so painful.
Yeah.
Honestly, and it's just so annoying. And I was in very much a victim mode, which, if you don't know, is just blaming yourself for everything, blaming life. This is happening to me. It's not my fault. It's everybody else's fault. It's my jobs. It's my employers. I was proper in that mode. And I was at home on my own. And obviously, going from working double shifts to doing absolutely nothing, I was going out of my mind even more. So it was even more depressing when I didn't think my life could get any more depressing. And I was in pain at the same time. So I was very much feeling sorry for myself. So, and all I was thinking to myself was, oh, they need me at work. When can I get back to work? And it was very much like a rush and stressed and negative self-talk, trying to get myself better quickly just to get back to work. I need the money. So everything, I was in this really bad negative thinking cycle, and I didn't understand that this is what I was doing at the time. So being at home for a long time, at first I wasn't aware of any of these things. I didn't have any of this mindset training. I didn't understand, how the body and mind worked. And I was just, in denial really, and just blind to all the things I was doing to myself. And then I was so bored at home. One day after a couple of weeks, I got a psychic reading. I was like, yes, they're going to show me the light. They're going to guide me to this heaven that I've been awaiting. And yeah, and she said to me, the universe is telling you to slow down. And I was laughing. I was really, really laughing. I said, don't be silly. And I didn't believe a word she said. And she's like, no, really, you just wouldn't listen. And I still didn't believe her. And I sat with it for a few days and I realized I fell down the stairs because I was so exhausted that I literally, just I couldn't walk down the stairs and it was insane. So I had a really long time to sit at home and think about it. And it was almost like she'd just started the puzzle and then I was putting all the other pieces in the puzzle and it started to make sense. And it was like the whole world as I'd lived it was like I was living under this rain cloud or something and I couldn't see the sunshine. And I honestly, it was like a big awakening. And I finally admitted to myself as I was, up there alone and noticed and become aware that actually it was me that wasn't putting myself first and that I was people pleasing and putting someone else's business before my own health, my own mental health, my own physical health. And I'd lost myself completely. So it was basically the start of my whole journey. And I did revisit CBT and understand it. And then, it all made sense really. How you think is how you feel and how you act. But at the time, I was young, I was naive, and I was just too far gone, I think. And yeah, that burnout and that falling down the stairs and injuring myself kind of changed my whole life really, because I was able to see the things I was doing to myself and, and I had to take accountability. So it was huge. And that was where I started on my path of healing It wasn't always easy because although I had the answers, I mean, everybody knows that we've got to go to the gym, but it doesn't mean to say we go to the gym, you know. Everybody knows we've got to eat healthy, and it doesn't mean to say we eat healthy. And everybody knows that, you know, we have to work on our mindset. But when you're at the beginning, you kind of don't know how to do it. So I was still a little bit lost. But yeah, I've just done so much training and understanding how I work, and I was finally learning from the lessons, rather than keep repeating the same lessons over and over again. So that's really where my you first method came from, that I coach my clients, because I've realized that actually everything I was doing, I wasn't putting myself first. You know, I was lacking in self love. I was people pleasing. I was getting my validation off other people. And to do that as a woman, you know, we take on everything ourselves and carry it all on our shoulders. And, you know, we try and please ourselves through other people, but it doesn't work. You can literally be exhausted and burnt out and run ragged, and you're still not going to get that inner joy and happiness until you have that self love. So it was a really great learning curve, really, because it's now changed my whole life. And from going from overworking on antidepressants constantly, breaking down at every job I'm in, to now off my antidepressants and happy and positive, and you know, working with exhausted women to make them happy and positive and change their mindset is just, you know, transformational, really. I'm so lucky.
Yeah. That's awesome. I mean, I think, especially now there's this corporate culture where you have to hustle, you have to work. You know, I feel like when you go to work a 40-hour week, it's like you sell your soul to the company and they own you, and it does feel really hard to take time off and you feel guilty. Like
Mm.
guilt is a big one when it comes to putting yourself first. I know I used to people please. I used to, do all of the things that would just make me feel comfortable because I didn't want someone else to not like me. And it did. It caused burnout. It caused
Yeah.
so much exhaustion you know, and everything else that I've been through. I mean, you end up with autoimmunity. You end up with inflammation. I mean, there's tons of things going on in the body that people don't realize is happening when you just push and push and push and go, go, go. And that's our culture now. Our culture is to just go, go, go.
Yeah. 100%. And nobody teaches you how to learn to live by putting yourself first. They don't say, "Oh, you've got to look after your own needs. You've got to make sure you fill your own cup first." It's literally just make sure you go to work full time. Or if you're off when you're poorly, it's like when you coming back to work, like everybody is just got their own agenda, and businesses just see you as a number now. I mean, I remember going to a CEO's office once crying my eyes out, and I was on the phones, and I've been on the phones all day, and I was fighting back the tears and fighting back the tears, and my mental health was so low. And I was crying in the office, and they were like, "Oh, just have a little walk around and go back to your job." And I just found it so hard. And I just wish they could have had the compassion and understanding to just say, "Angie, just go home today and come back tomorrow. Have a mental health day." But it wasn't that. It was more like, you know, they're thinking about what work needs to get done. And in hindsight, like if I'd had 4 hours of work, would it have ended the world? No. So I just think we're so worried about paying our bills, you know, pleasing our employer, that we forget that the most important thing is our health. And if you look at Maslow hierarchy of needs, you know, the first basic part of the pyramid is your basic needs in your health. And that needs to be met before you can go anywhere else. But we sacrifice that to make other people money and other people happy, and it's not until you lose that and you burn out and you lose yourself trying to please everyone else that you realize, actually, I can't keep doing this because, you know, what's life if you're not happy? And that's what happens if you're exhausted all the time. I work with so many women that wake up and they're still exhausted. They're carrying all the weight of the work, the house, the kids, and they forget about all the emotional weight they're carrying of, how do I basically book these appointments when I've got to be at work? How do I, and they're trying to do everything in their lunch break, and they're thinking about what they're going to get for dinner. And, there's so much responsibility put on us.
Yeah.
And when I work with my clients, I'm helping them to see things differently. Like I've just had a call today and she's like, I've got to work, I'm setting up my business, we have dinner at 9:30, and she's listing all these things and you can feel the heaviness. But when I just asked her to think about things in a different way, she's laughing, she's having fun. And this is what's happening to women now. Honestly, every single woman I speak to that is exhausted hasn't got any hobbies that they're doing. They're not doing anything for themselves that's bringing them fun. And we're wondering why we're in a society when mental health is just, going up and up and up. It's because people are not putting themselves first, and they're not giving themselves the joy and the happiness. We all think we should be adults walking around miserable and just going to work and cleaning, and we shouldn't be doing anything for ourselves. And that's how you lose yourself, when you give all of you to everybody else.
Yeah.
And I just think society really honestly needs to educate children in school, firstly, to about how their mind works, about negative thinking loops and how to stop them, so that they can actually question this negative thoughts when they're happening and change them into a new empowering thought, and help them understand about burnout and exhaustion, and how that their health is number one. Because we're literally just expected to go and work full time and give up everything of us until we've lost ourselves. And it's just not fair. And I think, you know, that's the most important education that they can get, to learn that health is number one.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know I let my kids take mental health days from school. If I could tell that they were struggling or just really tired, I'm like, okay, mom will let you skip school today. Why don't you take a mental health day?
And they
And I have
should
a,
be allowed to, yeah.
yeah. And, my daughter was totally fine with it. My son is like, but I'll have schoolwork to catch up on. Like, you know what?
Yeah.
Catch up on it later. Your
And
health
that's
is
what
more important.
Yeah, and that's what it's doing. It's giving them anxiety
Yeah.
that they're missing a day off school. I do it with my daughter. I'm like, look, you're exhausted. Take the day off. No, mum, I've got this to do. And you can see it in them. I mean, they're expected. They don't get a day off school. For a mental health, they're expected to be at school all the time. And like you say, one day they might wake up exhausted and not want to go. And I just think it's such a large portion of our life when we're at school, then we're at work. And, it's no wonder people are in like robot modes, constantly going and doing. And, we tend to see now as our self worth being as much as we can do. People used to walk up to me and say, "Oh, you're such a hard worker." I used to love it. And now when I hear someone say hard working, like I'm like, oh no, don't say that. I don't want to be a hard worker. You
Yeah.
know, I don't like it. It makes me cringe, because hard work gets you everywhere, and all these sayings that you hear. And I'm like, no, work smarter, put your health first. I remember when I was at work once, I had to phone my mum up crying and said, "Mum, I've got, I'm not well, but he won't let me go home." And she came down and got me because my boss wouldn't let me go home. And I ended up in bed for 4 days with tonsillitis. I was so ill, I couldn't move my head, but I wasn't allowed to go home.
Wow.
I know.
Yeah, that's just
It's
it.
insane.
Like, leaders out there really need to value your employees, your people. And I keep hearing all the time, that they could just hire someone else. It's like, yeah, that's true. They could just hire someone else, but it's your health.
Yeah.
Your health is the only thing that you have at the end of the day.
The
Paycheck or
thing
no
that,
paycheck. Like,
yeah. The thing is though, because like parents, mums, women, in general, I don't really work with a lot of men. But I know they can be just as busy with their workloads because obviously they don't need to get home for the kids and things like this. So they'll work themselves in the ground. But because we're carrying so much and we've got so much on our minds, it's like we're constantly in fight or flight mode. Like we're like surviving, we're not living. And half the time we don't even realize we're in that mode. So I help my clients do breathing activities to just so that they're just, when they're breathing out, they're just relaxing in the chair and they're feeling their shoulders and everything just going to the chair. And I get them just to be aware, like, where is it showing up in your body? Is it your shoulders, your neck? Can you feel a bit of anxiety? Because we're so in flight or fight mode, in survival mode, and our nervous systems are fried, people aren't actually aware of what's happening in their body and they're just pushing through constantly. And it would be like saying just gonna drive the car with no petrol in it. And people wouldn't do that, but we do that with our bodies. So I'm basically teaching my clients to pause and just to ask themselves, put their hand on their heart and just say, what do I close their eyes so that they're not distracted and just say, what do I need right now?
Mhm.
And it sounds simple, but they're just coming down to their body. And this is things that exhausted women, they're not aware of what's going on. They're not present basically. And this sort of exhaustion is meaning that they're reacting to their family members, they're not responding. So they're very reactive because I miss myself, I was terrible. Like I would just be coming out of work, my legs would be hurting, my back would be hurting. I barely sat down from 10 till 6. And I just snap. I won't be like, oh, hi, how are you? I'd walk in the door and see my daughter outside my bedroom and say, I'm too tired to cook tonight. We'll get a takeaway. And I'd get into bed. I didn't even have the energy, honestly, to sit on the sofa. And I couldn't be present with my family because I was just so snappy. And then I would snap at them and then I'd be crying afterwards and I'd feel bad because I knew it wasn't me. But it was like something had took over me. Like I didn't know how to be calm and present. And, like I look at the interactions I've got with my family now and like I'm so excited when they come home and, excited to see them. And that's what normal life should be like. And it's just strange. Like when you have that look after yourself and put yourself first, you don't only just have a better relationship with yourself, you have a better relationship with everyone around you. It's just a knock on effect of every area of your life. So it's just so empowering and so impactful to put yourself first because then you're able to give to everyone else what they deserve and you don't lose yourself. Like losing yourself and your spark and your happiness is soul destroying.
Yeah. What do you say to the people who say, "Well, I don't have time. I don't have the
Yeah.
time to slow down. I can't. It's not possible."
I think that everything's a mindset issue. Like mindset is, they say, is 80% and strategy is 20%. And, every call I've had today, everybody said the same, really heavy. I've got to do this. I've got to do this. I've got to do this. And I've got them laughing. I've got them thinking differently. I'm the first one to pull myself up and laugh at myself and put myself down and learn from my mistakes. And I tell you now, even as a mindset coach, I still have negativity. I just laugh at myself and correct it most of the time. But it still gets you sometimes. You still get in that spiral.
Mhm.
So I say, right, watch my video. I've been moaning all week at my family that I've been cleaning all week and I haven't had time to do this, that, and the other. But on the last day I cleaned, I looked at the clock and I don't know about you, but I barely get upstairs to clean every day. It's always downstairs and then you don't have time for upstairs.
Yep.
I'd cleaned the bathroom upstairs, I'd mopped, I'd done the kitchen, I'd got the washing on, and I was like, wow, I've done loads. I've really gone above and beyond today. And I looked at the clock and it was an hour and a half after I woke up. And I just froze and I was like, actually, there's no way in the world I could have cleaned any longer than an hour. Hour and 10 minutes max. It must have been an hour, right? So I was laughing. I was actually laughing at myself, and I knew I'd been whining about doing the cleaning all week. And I was like, do you know what? I'm moaning. All I ever do is do the cleaning. It's 1 hour out of my day. So I had to have a really stern word with myself and change my mindset, because sometimes you can't help but drag yourself down. But what I teach my clients is the self-talk that's exhausting you more than the actual job you're doing. So did that cleaning all week exhaust me as much as the negative self-talk that I moaned about all day to my family, because I thought, why should I do it? And you start resenting everyone else because you're doing it, even though you're not asking them to do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had a proper word with myself and I said, no, Angie, it's 1 hour out of 24. So I just tell all my clients what I do and they laugh. And I'm like, it literally is getting people to see a different way and think a different way and rewiring that mindset. And as soon as you can start seeing where you're draining your energy, it does get better. Like literally before, I've still got to go to work. I've still got to clean the house. I've still got to look after my daughter. I've still got all the same responsibilities, but I'm because I'm putting myself first and I'm changing my thinking, I'm, doing different. I'm living different. So it's not that you're gonna, you know, get a beach house and be able to work half the year and have half the year off. It's just about talking to yourself differently. And if you listen, even if for 24 hours, what you're saying to yourself, you don't even realize half the time what you're saying. Oh, I'm not good enough. I can't do this. Oh, I'm no good at tech. And it might just, and it's automatic. They're automatic thoughts.
Mm.
But it's like having a bully in your pocket all day, right?
Yeah.
If you heard someone say to your best friend, oh, you're not good enough, you're rubbish at tech, and at least, a few things that you say to yourself, you'll be like, don't talk to her like that.
Right.
So, what we're doing is we're basically our own bully in our own pocket. And once you start to train yourself to talk better to yourself and look at where you're draining your energy, for instance, I have clients that wake up in the morning, pick their phone up, go to the toilet, because us women in midlife need to go to the toilet as soon as we wake up. And they're on the toilet before they've even opened their eyes and they're emailing work things, appointments. And I'm like, our state in the morning is lower. It takes longer to set our state, and you're basically elevating your cortisol levels and stress levels in the morning. And then you're on high alert for the rest of the day. So it's looking at things in a complete different way with me. Like people think, oh no, I haven't got enough time for a coach, but actually it's not even doing more, it's doing less, because you're thinking differently, you're acting differently, and you're seeing, like I say to them, what's your favorite color? No, I've just had one that said purple. I said, right, imagine this massive big purple. You get the gift boxes with a bow. It's glitter blow, beautiful purple, all sparkly. I'm gifting this to you now. This is your box for you in the morning. And your gift box is to give yourself 20 minutes in the morning, no phone. Can put your favorite music on, have a coffee downstairs on your own in silence, just sit outside for 10 minutes, whatever it is, watch a funny podcast, but gift yourself that first 20 minutes and do that and see how much difference it makes. Because you're telling yourself as you wake up, I deserve the gift of this 20 minutes to set my state and make myself, set the state for the day. That is your one chance to decide how you're going to feel for the rest of the day.
Yeah. And how many women do you tell that to? Go, oh, you can see that like sheer look of terror on their face. Like,
Well,
I don't know
yeah,
if
I've
I can
said
do
it.
that.
I have one which was bad with the snooze, this snooze effect. I call it the no snooze effect. I just make up these silly names. And she snoozed her alarm every day. And I just think it's so bad, because basically you're snoozing it and you're telling yourself, I don't want to get up to face the day. Okay. Every day should be a gift at the end of the day. We take it for granted, but it's a gift. We're breathing, we're alive. And she was getting to work really stressed, sometimes without coffee, sometimes she need petrol, but she wouldn't have enough time. So, she's worried she's not going to make it to work, no petrol.
Mm,
And she was telling me all this stuff. And I was like, and basically, so yeah, she's snoozing. I don't want to get up yet. Don't want to get up yet. Don't want to get. So it's a vicious cycle. If you're snoozing your alarm for half an hour, that is half an hour of negative self talk and not wanting to face the day.
yeah.
So yeah, it's everything I'm against. So I was like, come on, you can do it. No, I'm never going to do that. By week 3, she'd stopped snoozing her alarm. She was going to work. She was having a coffee. She was going to work. And she was like, I can't believe it. And I was like, what? She said, honestly, I'm going to work more positive, and it's actually rubbing off on people that aren't even positive at work. They're being more positive. She's like,
Wow.
and she's like, she point blank told me that she was never ever going to not snooze her alarm, and I'm not going to make her do it. I'm just going to say, as I've said it today, how I feel. That's how I feel. But people start to look at things differently when they listen to me. They're looking at me, they're seeing how happy I am, they see how joyful I am, they see that they want that magic. They want they want that gift box in the morning. Do you know what I mean? They don't want to be telling themselves they don't want to get out of bed and they don't want to face the day and they just want to hide under the blanket and be depressed.
Yeah.
So it's funny because it's they can see what they're doing. Then they can see all the things they're doing that are draining their energy that they wouldn't normally look at. And it's not about, sometimes when we are exhausted, we think we need to change job, move countries. I've done it myself, go sit in a field in the middle of nowhere on our own. But actually, there's thousands of things we probably do in our day that's draining our energy and we don't realize. And you can just cut one of them out, just tweak it a little bit, and you can feel 100 times better. So it's funny, really.
Yeah, it is. I mean, we walk around like, oh, I don't have time. I don't have time. And it's like, well, okay, what are you making time for then?
Yeah.
What's a priority? And by not giving yourself that little 20 minutes in the morning, you're basically telling yourself that you're not worth that.
Yeah, exactly. And unfortunately, a lot of women don't feel good enough. I've been in networking groups, and every single woman said their limiting belief wasn't feeling good enough, whether it was, in which form they said it, it was all down to the same thing. So when we don't feel good enough, we do overgive because we're trying to get that validation and that love. And, if you make your boss happy, that makes you happy. But, we do all this thinking, they're happy. If they're happy, I'll be happy, but it doesn't work. And it's the same with motherhood. I thought to myself, being the perfect people pleaser and, never considering my own needs, I thought if I was a good mum, that I was the best mum. But all I was doing was staying at home, not going out, overworking, and just being there for her, that I didn't have any hobbies, didn't do anything for me. She'd be hanging on my leg if I wanted to go out anywhere or go to work, and I'd feel like the guilty mum. But I didn't realise that actually by showing her, by giving her everything, I was showing her that mum didn't matter, mum's needs didn't matter, and it was, yeah, it's another thing. There's so many lessons when you start putting yourself first. You think, yeah, to be a good mum, I need to show her that I matter too, that, my needs matter, because otherwise she'd probably grow up thinking, right, I need to run around like a blue ass fly, putting my kids' needs first and not consider myself.
Right. Yeah, kids model. They model and they absorb things like little sponges. They see, well, mom acts this way, then, this is how I need to act. And that's just reinforced through society as well.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, so I've had so many lessons really, and I think it does all boil down to the not feeling good enough and trying to fulfill what you're not giving yourself. Basically, if you don't have that self love, you're always looking for that buzz, like to get it off someone else or to make someone else happy, or people please. Yeah, you want to be the one that's does the overtime even though you can't hardly walk, and Do you know what I mean? It's not like, "Oh, I'm too tired. I'm sorry, I can't do it." It's like they need me. My boss needs me. His business needs me. Like I needed me, but I couldn't see that, and it's yeah. I'm just so passionate about it now because I've lived so many lives trying to get to this point that it's like now I'm awake, I'm like, wow, come on. I need to help women understand that they do deserve to be happy. And this is what it all boils down to. Because when you lose yourself and you're exhausted, it takes a long time to get it back.
Yeah. It does. And I think people don't realize that once you do go down that road of being completely burned out, what you have to do to like fill the tank back up. That's
Yeah.
not happening overnight.
No, it can take a long time. And it's because your nervous system is just fried, completely fried. And, even the sleeping, sleeping, lots of sleeping normally doesn't help. And then eating healthy doesn't help. You're just fried. So you have to start regulating your nervous system and start doing these things that you haven't been doing, like breathing and being able to understand how, when your brain is overwhelmed and you're feeling stressed and anxious, how to change your state by doing things like breathing. So it's really, really important. And I always try and get my clients to practice their breathing for, I say, 2 minutes a day, because someone that's exhausted thinks time is, precious and they haven't got any time. So if they're putting the kettle on in the morning, they can do their breathing while the kettle's boiling, and
Mhm.
then that'll help regulate them and help them stop reacting at people and be able to respond and help them deal with things more effectively. And it's working really well actually, because some of my clients have got a lot of challenging situations with their families and things. And I'm like, well, why don't you do your breathing before you know that's going to happen? If you know that happens every time of that day, and they're like, oh, I never thought of that. So yeah, it's and then they're sleeping better and they're feeling calmer. So it's just recognizing that when you are exhausted, that you are in fight or flight mode constantly, and you do need to self-regulate and be kind to yourself, basically, because what we tend to do is I'm exhausted. I can't do everything. I can't this. I can't that. And we carry so much burden and we feel like it's all our fault. And actually it's not, that's why it's so important to talk about it really, because nobody was telling me anything, any of this stuff. I'd never heard of any of it. So I just feel like I'd been asleep.
Yeah. Well, and it's okay. It's okay to need a break. It's okay to ask for it. It's
Yeah.
okay to tell your family, like, you know what? I need a timeout right now. And I think a lot of women, especially, we feel like we have to take on all of it. And if we ask for a break, we're somehow failing. And
Yeah.
it's like, no, we're not failing. You're not failing as a human. You just need a break. Your body can only take so much. Your nervous system can only take so much.
Yeah, and we don't, because we don't like asking people, we then become resentful of people around us because we're doing everything for them. But at the same time, we need to learn to ask them for support and communicate. I used to say to my partner, I'm a snappy crocodile. Like, we'd have all these stupid code words because, like, if I didn't tell him that, then it would make me feel even worse and even more emotional. And, at the time I couldn't manage my emotions as it was. So, I knew after I'd have a big outburst, that I would feel even worse and guilty and bad for having the outburst. So I was trying to pre-warn him all the time, but then he could be kinder and offer to do the dinner and things like that. So, unfortunately, some people haven't got these, partners that they can communicate for and get the support. But
Yeah.
that's why it's so important to be able to do it for themselves with breathing and things like that. And also, like when we get overwhelmed and we feel it in our head, it's like a computer tab with 10 screens open. it's our basically our brain telling us we're overloaded. We just need to empty it. So it's like resetting the computer. We need to reset ourselves. So now that I'm aware of what's happening to me, I'll just go outside for 5 minutes. And it's really important for women to know that actually you don't have to, go for a hike for an hour, take an hour off, and do all these things, go for a massage and all these things people think they need, spa weekends. You literally just go outside the house for 5 minutes, or, come away from what you're doing and just go and make a cup of tea, have a 5 minute break, and then go back. And you've just emptied that. And then you can start filling it back up again. So, really, the first step is awareness, really, and just trying to think to yourself, like, what is happening in my body? Where can I feel it? And start learning to have that pause. And it sounds silly, but I had a little pause earlier and my mouth was all dry. And I just thought, I need a drink. And, those sorts of things women aren't doing. They're not having regular breaks.
Mhm.
They're just sat, they might be sat at work at their desk and they've got a deadline. So they've not moved from their desk for 6 hours and not skipped lunch. And then they're wondering why they've got an energy crash and they're exhausted and they go straight to bed. So it's silly, really, because we think we should know about our basic needs. But because we're putting everybody else before ourselves, we'll be like, oh, no, I'm not going to make a cup of coffee. I'm too busy and things like this. But it's really important just to the small things, like anything in life, make the big things. So if you take care of your basic needs, then your body will take care of you.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people don't get that. So
No.
it's a good reminder to just start small. It doesn't need to be anything huge. Just like you said, when you've got the water on in the morning, just take a start breathing.
Yeah.
I think people think that it has to be big, big things that have to happen in order for changes to be made, or, to start feeling better. And it's like, no, two
No.
minutes. It's like you said, 2 minutes.
Yeah. And I think with a lot of people as well, they do feel guilty for resting and putting themselves first. Like, it's not in their nature. As women, we're like nurturing and we like to look after people. But the thing is, we do it so much where, when we end up not being able to cope with everything we've got on, and we can't do everything. So what happens is women try to put themselves first and it feels really icky and their body's resistant to it because it's not used to it, and they think that ickiness is, oh no, it's not right. I shouldn't be doing it. But actually, when we try and change a pattern in our body, it does feel icky. Our body's trying to keep us safe and it will keep us in the place we're in. It doesn't want us to grow, it doesn't want us to change. And once we just push past that little bit of ickiness, we're able to get to the stage where our body feels comfortable and it understands that it's just moving somewhere else. And we're like, oh, okay, because soon as a woman feels that resistance, they're like, no, it must be wrong. I won't do it anymore. But actually, you need to push through that uncomfortableness, because that's when you grow. Our body doesn't push us to grow, and if we don't face that, then we're always going to put ourselves last.
Okay. Push past the icky. Love it.
Yeah, basically.
Love it. Love it. So if someone wants to work with you, where can they find you?
Well, I'm on Facebook as Angie Mays Mindset Coach. And I have a group, Exhausted to Empowered, which you know about because you're in there at the moment.
Remember.
Yes. So basically, it's a group for women that are exhausted in any area of their life. And I have experts in there that take over and just give some free information to the women and advice, really. It's going really well at the moment because I have loads of different experts in there, not just mindset coaches, but nutrition, relationship coaches, menopause coaches. So yeah, I've have that group as well, and I'm also doing some free tiny challenges at the moment. Um, yeah, so which are going really well actually. They're called the You First Reset, and they're free one-to-one challenges for women, and Yeah, they're just short challenges so that they can help them to basically, the first one is to get them just to connect with their body, basically. So, yeah, and it's just helping them think a little bit differently. So, it's good actually. It's like a mini version of the You First method, but it's just helping them to think different, to live different, basically, and just see how they can change their lives without moving away, quitting their job and moving the country, basically.
Nice. And that's in the group or
No, that's just on my profile. I do that. Yeah, I tend to let the guest experts have the control of the group most of the time. Yeah, it's a good little challenge really because it's just 3 days and it's one to one and it just helps women to notice where they are. And then that's the first session, and then the second session is nourish, and the third session is lead. So it's just like a little mini reset, helping them to reprogram their mindset and just understand how things can be different, really. Because honestly, I've been there myself. You feel like you're in sinking sand all the time, and you like, give me a break. How can my life be any different?
yeah.
And they feel very, very stuck. And yeah, can't see the light, I guess, or the path forward.
Yeah, I think a lot of women feel that way right now,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah, it is. But when you're not looking after your own needs, you've got nothing to give really, and then you're giving what you haven't got. It is very exhausting.
Yeah. Oxygen mask on the airplane.
It is, it really is, and we don't lead that into life, do we?
Mm, yeah. All right. Well, Angie, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your expertise on burnout and how to go from exhausted to empowered. I will put all of those links in the show notes. And thanks for hanging out with us on Fine, I'll Talk About It. If today's episode got you thinking, hit follow or subscribe so you don't miss what's next. And if you want more real talk, more perspective shifts, and more finally someone said it moments, leave a quick review. It helps other people find the show. You can connect with me on Instagram at Inspired Action Wellness or on my website, inspiredactionwellness.com, for more inspiration like this. And we will see you in the next episode.